Chapter 43, Animals Striking Curious Poses. As he reached the 54th floor, the doors opened and Michael was finally in. The floor was part of the building that wasn't yet set up for cubicles to offices like other ones, Michael imagined. All the guts of the building were showing. All the pipes, ventilation systems, and whatnots were exposed in plain sight. But the rest of the place was as what Michael did imagine. Whoa, thought Michael as he was completely taken in by the scene he was now witnessing. Oh shit, this is surreal. It was a party straight out of 80s Caligula's imagination. 80s Romans were all over the place, drinking, snorting, and shooting it up. Almost every inch of the scenery was draped in white cloth or silk that had torn ends folded over and over itself across expanses. Everything was white, almost everyone was dressed in white, and the ones that weren't looked like peasants mixed in with the nobles for servitude. Michael felt like he had stuffed his head inside a pillowcase full of white lingerie. The scenery and the characters around made it seem like Pat Nagal had painted his own Sistine Chapel in the lust sector of white hell, and then had the white devil make it come to life. Everything and everyone seemed immaculate, flawless, and symmetrical. At least on the surface. Also, there were tons and tons and tons of mirrors everywhere, reflecting all the whiteness. There was a layer of white smoke at knee level, and here and there white doves would fly out and begin to cry. So much smoke and mirrors, so much smoke and mirrors, Michael began spinning around and around, looking at it all, and felt lost inside a white crystal cave. It feels like I'm gonna go snowblind in here. Might develop a cataract or something if I look at all this for far too long. Thank God the place isn't very well lit. Also, are you really trying to be subtle about it? I mean, don't tell me I'm the only one that sees all this in-your-face symbolic shit going on. Yeah, that's the 80s for you. Best way to be subtle is to beat it over someone's head with the message you're trying to get across. There was Sweet Dreams by Eurythmus playing over the airwaves. Wanting to be used and abused, huh? Really setting the mood with what this place is all about. Greek and Roman statues were everywhere. On one statue, someone had placed a top hat on his head and a condom over its crown. All in all, even though it was everything Michael sort of imagined on an inconceivable level, he also sort of felt a bit underwhelmed by it. It all looks all so gorgeous and gracious, but there was no magic involved. Yeah, I'll admit, I guess I did get a little too excited, thinking I'd see some otherworldly shit happening in here. I mean, everything here looks magical. Looks like a fucking Prince music video, really, might I add, but there was definitely no real magic involved. Just a lot of meticulous setup and atmosphere building. That really just involved a lot of blowing fans and smoking dry ice. And props being propped up all at the right spots. All behind cameras and shit. But besides that, as for the freaks in here, the hedonists, sexual deviants, it's still a lot of the same shit I saw at that nasty sex party, just with a much, much better production value all around. Enacted by supposedly much, much better people. A bunch of pervs with their animal parts hanging out while getting very animalistic with each other. But nothing at all transcendent about it, nothing otherworldly. Pity. He'd been building his expectations up for what he'd see, but now that he was here, all he could think about was finding Madboy and... Oh, please let me not see her here. At least not tonight. Michael then picked up a wine glass from a server that was dressed all in white latex gimp outfit, riding around on a zebra, but then began strolling around a bit, taking in the atmosphere. Jamil was, of course, right behind him, riding his coattails, and making sure he was behaving, and not misbehaving. So, these are the lizard people, huh? Thought Michael, as he remembered Nicky once calling them that. Used to have an entirely different impression of them when I was younger, growing up in a shithole surrounded by shitheads. Whenever I saw these types, when I'd come to the island, they seemed a lot more refined and revered, dignified, civilized, gents. A bunch of somebodies much more ideal, better type of people than the likes of me. But when I mentioned that to Nikki, she told me, Michael, these people are straight up evil. They're like lizards, heartless and cold-blooded, and nothing like the type of people you're used to dealing with. They're far, far worse. And the way her eyes bulged out explaining all that scared me. Lizard people, huh? That's the name she had given them. Funny. The impression I now get seeing them under this new light makes me wonder, just how heartless and cold-blooded they can actually be. In the end, I know what to expect from scrap-happy cats like myself looking for some fish. I don't think we all got anything against each other on a twisted level, because we're just really trying to make it on by on our own. But what can you expect from a slimy lizard that's standing perfectly still, unflinchingly, unnervingly, unrelentingly, staring right at you while licking its eyeballs, waiting for you to turn your back before making its move? Makes me just want to fuck them all up now before I find myself stabbed in the back later when I'm not looking. I mean, the Ravishers had been dealing with these assholes for years and years, and I've seen how underhanded and conniving they can be in the past. Stumpy too. Look at all of them, all dressed up in their posh Armani shit, smiling and greeting each other as if they were all the bestest of friends, bestest of pals and all, while really also looking like they're scheming each other's dooms. They're two-faced, and fuck do I hate those types. You know what? You lizards go ahead and smile too when you face me, but the second you do, I'll just start immediately wringing your neck like I did Stumpy. That's what I'll do, I swear. Michael continued to eye them all suspicious-like as he thought that. But then lightened up a bit once he saw some cute Japanese chick looking bored and getting fucked by two yuppies, who then smiled at Michael, seeming much more interested in him as she blew him a kiss. Just as I thought Michael as he felt his shining of his own true worth shine out against the avarice in the dark. All the money in the world won't buy you guys what I've already got with the ladies. Magic. Real magic. And a sort of magic that's a 4-letter word and starts with an L and doesn't end with UST. I mean, I barely got here and I've now already had 3 chicks looking like they wanted to dump their loosey yuppie mates for me. Me, looking like I just crawled out of a sewer, while everyone here is looking all tailored out, then suited up after stepping out of a spa. And I haven't even done nor said anything yet. Haven't popped out my old pocket watch once. You lizards are really just pathetic. You boys are slipping. I mean, you call that fucking? Looking all confused like you might be doing it wrong? Yeah, the penis enters the hole. Good job there, you authors. Good job. I can see the Ivy League education your daddy's bought you at Yale or Princeton or Harvard is really paying off. All that schooling and networking with hobnob jackasses like yourselves to create a lucrative career, to make a lot of dough, just so you can attract the sort of women you wouldn't even know what to do with. Michael then thought of clapping, but didn't. Instead, he just shook his head while frowning. Bravo, simply bravo. I'd applaud, but forgive me, for I then feel a bit awkward doing so and ashamed, like I'd be applauding to some mentally retarded 5-year-old child that just learned which hole to stick the food into. So sad. Makes me want to walk over there and smack those 2 idiots off that poor girl and show everyone here. But then Jamil would jump in and... Man, she's Japanese too, and... She even has that Jared hairdo, and... Fuck. Michael now felt like turning his attention and fucking with Jamil a bit, since he was feeling humorous again. And a bit pissy too. Hey Jamil, I thought zebras couldn't be tamed. Used to ride around on like regular horses, asked Michael. Hey, what you asking me? What makes you think I know anything about zebras? Asked Jamil, avoiding the obvious implications behind the joke. Michael just looked at Jamil and then smiled suggestively as Jamil began cracking his fists. Then Michael's eyes caught on to something else. Hey Jamil, is that really David Bowie over there, walking some chicks tied to velvet leashes? Gasped Michael. Michael was really confused this time. You look like David Bowie dressed in complete black Armani. Fuck yeah, you let the establishment know you're going to do your own thing, rebel. And there were women on all fours crawling around with velvet leashes around their necks. Is he trying to make a statement? Don't seem like something of his character to be doing all this, except if he was doing it to be ironic. I mean, considering most of the chicks in here are just here for one purpose and one purpose only. Hot beef injection, smack bone. Actual subtlety. But then again, not. It's still the 80s, and that's now been rendered impossible to tell. As Michael looked at Jamil, the big palooka looked away in irritation and didn't say a word. Hey Jamil, is that a... Yeah, that a woman over there being fucked by a panther, now let's go. Betamax is waiting for you over there, on the other end. Jamil pointed towards a section that had a giant white drapes hanging from the ceiling, all the way down to the floor. There was a very large cloud of smoke swarming out from inside, making it seem like they were about to enter a dragon's lair. And the silk was being blown around from giant fans on the other end, But before moving onward, Michael decided to entertain one final thought that was nagging him over all the in-your-face subtle symbolism at work here. You know, I think I finally understand racism now. I mean, purely deconstructively for what it really is. Personally, coming from Coney Island, I've been raised around way too many ethnic groups, so I've never been able to understand it how these lily mofos do. But now, looking at all this, I think I now can. I'm starting to think it might be more than just another form of dick measuring, us versus them tribal shit, the way I understood it, with different groups, just all trying to compete with each other, all doggy dog in this giant rat race. But I think with these lilies, it's not about competitiveness, but conflict, and the conflict between the concepts of good and evil. The colors themselves can be represented as something much more than skin tones, but effigies of good and evil. White can represent the color of light, good, innocence, and purity, whereas black can represent all the opposite. So maybe all the lily white people think they're pure or something, and black people are the work of the devil and represent the temptation. And now Michael took a gander at all the zoo porn going on with panthers with extremely pasty white women. I mean, look at all these panthers in here fucking pasty white women. yeah, that's actually happening. Is that what white people really desire and are afraid of also? To get fucked by everything they see as they see impure and corrupt? Was this done on purpose, or am I the one that's just seeing this? Michael then shrugged and decided not to think too far on the matter, considering how much he hated the topic. I hate thinking about racial matters. No more, Michael, no more. But then thought, although racial shit on the side, I have to say, there's something mesmerizing about watching a woman getting fucked by such a beautiful animal. I mean, look at all these women tense up and freak out every time the damn animal rams it into them. I've never heard a woman scream like that, except for a hem. And it looks like their faces are going to explode from the jolt descending into them. Hell, listen to them purr and growl, and I don't mean the panthers. I mean, I've seen bestiality before, but this ain't no goofy Igor-looking donkey. A panther is a slick and sexy and powerful, predatory, well-toned, muscular animal that... And then Michael's alarms went off. What the fuck am I thinking? I gotta find Madboy and get this over with before I... Once Michael broke out of that, both he and Jamil began making their way through the drapes. Oh, these things look... As he entered, Michael realized how not easy this was going to be, as he felt their violence waving around all up in their faces. Oh, what the... And they're huge, too! It smelled of jasmine, and the drapes were not letting up, as Michael and Jamil felt lost, trying to make it through to the other end. It felt like trying to walk from A to Z while a hurricane was a-blowing. Jamil, what the fuck? Cried out Michael, fighting off the wavy hysteria. No, my sentiments exactly. Even with the drapes, Michael was pleased for a second to see him and Jamil having found some common grounds. Their hatred for being put through this wacky gauntlet. It wasn't much, but Michael was starting to get annoyed by the frowning Kenyan, and any accordance between him and Jamil was welcoming. Halfway through the wavy hysteria, Michael found himself at the eye of the storm and bumped into the leader of the Ravishers. Oh, not you. He was a very hairy man that went by the name of Greasy Locks. Actually, his name was Jack Dukas, the Greek, but everyone called him Greasy Locks because of his obvious hairy nature, which he loved to share. He was wearing cowboy boots with golden spears, a red bow tie, and some flaming red-hot Speedos worn so tight it looked like he wanted to merge with his soul. Also, he was completely covered head to toe with Vaseline. Oh my, Betamax told me you were coming, Michael. It's been so long. Come here and give me a hug. Bubbled up Greasy Locks. Greasy Locks grew a shit-eating grin as he said that. He knew how repulsive an idea like that would be to a guy like Michael, and that was exactly why he said it. Michael, going against Greasy Locks' expectations, made a quick kissy face as he walked past him and slapped him twice on the cheek. Not the butt cheek. Greasy Locks didn't like this, as his shit-eating grin turned to a displeasing look, like he really did just have some shit to eat. Even though he wasn't gay, he wanted other straights to think he was and feel repulsed by his come-ons, so he didn't like it that Michael wasn't. That was just how much of a perv that Greek was. Come on, Michael, you can do better than that, demanded Greasy while waving his hair around. Maybe later, sweetie, maybe later. Michael kept walking. Well, actually still fighting through the wavy hysteria that continued, and then saw that Jamil was smiling at him. Seemed as if though he liked how Michael had handled Greasy back there, and it seemed he was starting to take a liking to him. Michael could now see Betamax, who was sitting on the couch dressed in white polyester. There was a giant statue of David behind them, and he was surrounded by some lackeys who seemed stoned out of their minds, all huddled around him, hanging around to every word he said as if though he was some 80s guru messiah or something. Betamax still hadn't seen Michael. He was babbling on in a very stoned out tone. While seated around the entire studio of cameras, Michael looked at Jamil, and Jamil just shook his head. His sentiments exactly. "Oh, Michael, you're here, finally. Come sit down next to me," muttered out Max as he stared off the words shooting out from his mouth. Michael just continued standing there but wasn't looking at Betamax anymore, for his attention was now on a lesbian orgy that was erupting to his left. There had to be like 30 supermodel-looking babes of all races, all going at it, moaning, licking, screaming on a silk-sheeted bed shaped like a heart. There were also video cameras all around taping the process. "Oh yes, that is a very lovely sight, isn't it, Michael? Especially for a man coming straight out of prison," said Max. Michael shook his head again and turned it around, giving Betamax his full undivided attention. Jamil, on the other hand, had his shades now off, looking like he was ready to walk over and dive right in. "Still looking for a rat boy, Michael?" asked Betamax. "That's the only reason I'm here." "Are you sure? Wouldn't you rather be joining those women over there? They're not all lesbians. They like men too," responded Max. "Fuck me. One looks Japanese too." "That is actually very tempting now that I think about it, yeah. But maybe later," mumbled Michael, trying hard not to give in to 1999's temptations. "Alright, I think the effects of this place are now starting to show their magic, but still, this ain't the spell I'd be looking for." "Rat boy, huh? Well, he's on another floor," responded Max with his eyes closed, seeming sullen. The Warhol wannabe there was starting to look like he was phasing in and out of existence, moving his head around in fluid manner as if he was stringing an invisible harp. And now Michael was really starting to get pissed. If Rat Boy was on a different floor, then why did Max ask him to come over here? "Okay, which floor is he on, Max? Hey, Max, snap out of it." Jeez, fucker's on acid. Greasy Locks had also now entered the frame as he sat down next to Betamax and crossed his legs, which seemed difficult for him, considering how slippery they were, as his left leg kept trying to slip off his right. Jamil continued stargazing, and Michael waited impatiently for Betamax to speak. "Michael, what were we talking about again?" asked Max finally. "Oh, for fuck's sakes," explained Michael. Michael slammed his palm against the side of his face and looked like a man that had thoughts of hanging himself. "I'm really starting to get tired of saying this, but here I go again. Where the fuck is... Rat Boy. He's on the next floor down." "Thank you." "Fuck," exclaimed Michael one last time. Finally an answer. And with that, Michael had had enough of this scene, but as he tried to turn around and leave, "Here Comes the Rain Again" by Eurythmics began to play.